Hi, this is Congressman Tom Cole. This is another one of our congressional chats. It on the surface wasn't really a lot of activity on the floor this week, but there were important pieces of legislation nonetheless. We rolled back a number of Biden-era regulations, mostly in the energy area. That's always good news for Oklahoma because the last administration, quite honestly, was very hostile to fossil fuel, and the things we did should encourage exploration, production, and the like. So it was work well done. The main focus of Congress, however, was on the so-called reconciliation bill, which has been now termed as the big, beautiful bill. It really is a huge portion of President Trump's agenda. It would basically retain the Trump tax cuts from 2017, add some additional tax reductions, offset the cost of that with some pretty substantial reductions in federal spending, something we certainly need to do, and finally add both $175 billion over a 4-year period to border security. That's everything from additional walls to extra people on the border patrol and higher technology, some support for additional military activity along the border as well, and then about $150 billion in military spending. Again, some of that would be quality of life. Most of it would be procurement, particularly weapon systems to help us hopefully deter the communist Chinese from adventurism in the Western Pacific. So it's a really big package. It's very complex. There's lots of controversy over different parts. And this particular package will be produced by 11 different committees. That does not include mine, the Appropriations Committee. We don't deal with things like Medicare, Medicaid, and some of these other areas. But it's moving pretty well. 7 of those 11 committees reported out this week. There are portions of those bills with literally hundreds of billions of dollars of savings for the American taxpayer. The military component has been reported out, so that'll help make a stronger America. The border security component has been reported out. This is mostly proceeding as reconciliation does along party line votes, so it's about getting agreement within the Republican Party so that the majority in each house can act and get the president what he wants. So it's an enormous number of moving parts and potential conflicts, and I'm very proud of my colleagues for finding common ground. In a bill this large, nobody will get everything that they want. There's already some areas that I would like to see us either go further in or I would do differently. But look, I understand the process of putting together 218 votes in a narrow majority in a very fractious Congress and caucus are not easy, and so I applaud the folks that have moved this forward. I want to single out for praise Steve Scalise. He's our majority leader from Louisiana. He's had us working on this for over a year. I can tell you that because we discuss it at the chairman's meetings every week, and I've been in that as, of course, chairman of appropriations. I think this is an extraordinary accomplishment by Steve that we've gotten this far, and I see his energy and his vision and his ability to put together the coalition we need as absolutely indispensable to finishing this task successfully. But we came a long, long way this week. Next week will be a very big week because 2 of the most important committees involved in this, Ways and Means, which handles the tax function, and Energy and Commerce, which has to save the largest amount of money, and a lot of that will be discussions on Medicaid, which is always a tough topic. They report next week, so we'll see where we are at the end of that week. But this was certainly a good week in moving forward. And also, finally, this is also the 100th day of the Trump administration. Now, we have a tradition ever since Franklin Roosevelt of evaluating people after 100 days. What's the nature of this presidency? That's probably a little bit too early to do. And quite frankly, I always think that President Roosevelt, who unquestionably was a very consequential president, had a big advantage. He had overwhelming control in March of 1933 when he came in of Congress. Huge Democratic majorities in the Senate and the House. Country in a moment of crisis, so it tends to look for strong leadership and rally around it. We were at the trough, the absolute depth of the Depression. And finally, and people forget this, he didn't actually take office until March, not January. So he actually had longer to prepare to what his opening 100-day agenda would be. We changed that after that March, and so every other president has had to come into office in January. The idea being we didn't want a long period of a lame duck, and there's a lot of merit to that. But boy, modern presidents have a lot less time to put their agenda together and lay the groundwork for success than their predecessors in the 19th and the first third or so of the 20th century were able to do. So recognizing that all of those factors, I would have to say Donald Trump's had an incredibly active 100 days. You can like him or not like him. You can agree with him or not agree with him. But I would tell you, I think he has advanced his agenda with incredible energy. He got his cabinet approved in record time. And I do something I don't often do. I'll compliment the Senate on that. They did a great job helping the president get through his team. John Thune over there really deserves a lot of plaudits. They also, one of the two big issues the president won on was the border. I can't believe how quickly he secured the border. I mean, literally a year ago, we were having thousands of people come over illegally every single day in the Biden administration. And they told us it couldn't be changed. There's just a mass migration underway. Well, Donald Trump changed it in 100 days, and he did it without any new money or resources, just by vigorously using what he already had and using the powers that were already available to any president. So, I think it's an achievement that I can't think of anything else that's gotten done on that scale that quickly in modern American history. Now, we're going to build on that. We're going to do more. We're going to take a lot of his proposals that are executive orders and turn them into law so they can't be overturned with the stroke of a pen by the next administration. But again, you got to take your hat off on the immigration fund. And the president's already moving on the economy. Now, again, as he warned us, there were going to be some bumpy spots on this as we transition, but he's trying to attract industry back into the country by building some tariff walls and incentivizing other countries that want to trade with the United States to actually produce products in the United States and provide jobs for Americans to avoid the tariffs. He's having some success in that. There's been $6 or $7 trillion of new investment in the United States economy in a very short period. Now, to do that, he's rattled a lot of cages around the world with these tariffs, because the United States is a very desirable market to be in. It's the richest and biggest market in the world. So other countries have taken advantage of us for a long time. They protect their markets, and since our tariffs, our barriers to entry were very low, they've exploited ours to their advantage. The president's trying to change that. He's in negotiations with dozens and dozens of countries, including some of our best friends and allies, Japan, India, the United Kingdom. I think we're going to see trade deals in very short order, which I think will be a good thing for the markets in America, and secure American producers a better deal around the world going forward. But again, as he predicted, this is going to rattle the markets, it's going to shake everything up. You either have confidence in his long-term vision or you don't. I do, because I saw what he did to the economy during his first term. We had, on the eve of COVID, the best economy we had had in at least 50 years, if not longer. An economy that was growing rapidly, that was employing lots of people, but most importantly, we're making people at the lower end of the economic scale, they were making the biggest gains, not the people at the top. The average working guy or people that had been shut out of the economy. It was the best era if you were African American or Hispanic American or a woman in terms of job creation, business creation, wages, and opportunity. That didn't happen overnight. It didn't really happen until he got his tax cut bill in December of 2017. But he was right in what we needed. So I have confidence that he will be right again, and that these changes are going to make a difference. And that's everything from regulation to, again, market protection, and a piece that we have not gotten done yet, but are clearly making progress on, and that's his tax cut agenda. So I would do what he recommended. I would be patient, but I see movement with extraordinary energy and momentum behind it by the president. So I think any way you look at it, you'd have to say he's had a pretty good 100 days. And the Democrats certainly haven't caught their footing yet. The only thing they know how to do is to be critical of him, not work with him. They missed a golden opportunity in the debate over funding the government back in March, where they could have had a much better deal than they ended up with, but they just couldn't sit down and bargain with Donald Trump. And I worry about that going forward, because the two parties don't have to agree, but they do have to bargain with one another and get to a consensus. And right now, Democrats are more interested in fighting the president and vilifying him, in my view, than they are in just sitting down, seeing if they can find a middle ground and a deal on things. And we saw some awfully big deals in the first Trump administration. I think we'll see some eventually here, but again, my Democratic colleagues, in my view, are having a hard time coming to grips with the fact that they don't control the House, they don't control the Senate, and they don't control the presidency, and they won't for the next 2 years. So you have to recognize what the strength of your hand is, and they certainly are important. There's certain things we can only do with Democratic support, or that we can only do and should do as a country together. That's going to be a big challenge, not in the weeks ahead, not in the months ahead, but honestly over the course of the Trump presidency, which, God willing, and will be a full 4 years. So people need to sit down, cool off, and start working together. But from the president's standpoint, he's achieved a lot. He's secured the border. He's got the economy moving again. I think he's reestablished the United States as the arbiter of global affairs. Most solutions to most problems come through the United States. And I like the strong action in terms of working with Israel, in terms of confronting terrorists like the Houthis, and in terms of reminding our European friends that NATO is a two-way street and that they need to be contributing more, which, to be fair to them, they are doing. And that's been a Trump initiative in both terms in the White House. So I expect the time between now and the August break to be enormously consequential. Republicans have got to start moving appropriations bills. We're working on that. I actually have a meeting later today with the director of the Office of Management and Budget, who handles these things for the president. We're working on a variety of different things to see if we can get the president's proposals through Congress, and see if we've got some good ideas, and I think we do, from a Republican standpoint, to put on the table and help the president navigate to Congress, because again, Democrats remain in the minority, but they're a very powerful minority. It's a very close division in the House and in the Senate. We still have the so-called filibuster, where you have to get to 60 votes on appropriations bill. There's only 53 Republicans, so that requires some cooperation, and that's been in short supply so far. We'll see if we can do a little bit better on that, and the president can be a little bit more successful in the weeks and months ahead. So I would stay tuned. I think this is what one journalist labeled the Trump show. It's going and blowing at full steam. This is not a president that anybody wonders about their energy. You may disagree with them or its accessibility, but just contrast the number of interviews you've seen or press encounters you've seen with President Trump and former President Biden. And You know, again, you may not like Donald Trump, but you can't say he's not energetic, not deeply engaged in his presidency, not provocative, not willing to put things on the table. He's anything but a go-slow president. He's 100 miles an hour every minute of every day. And Congress, I will say, is having a hard time adjusting to that. We don't move as fast as the executive branch, and we don't move as decisively as this president does, as a rule. But if you're a Republican, I think it'd be hard to say you weren't happy by the energy and the vision and the scope of what the president's trying to do, or you're not happy by what's happened on the border. In fact, every American of both parties should, give the president credit for reestablishing border security. And so, again, we'll see how it goes. Having lived through the first Trump term, I can tell you the twists and turns ahead of us are incalculable. But I think broadly speaking, will get us to a good place. But that'll be up to the American people to decide. Right now, we think it's our job to produce, and we're going to do that. So in the meantime, good luck, God bless, have a great week.